Drivers who switch their home and auto with Progressive could save money and time. Other things try to do this, but they really don't. Like the touchscreen at fast food places. It's not like you save time because it takes you longer to use a touchscreen than, I don't know, someone who works there. And another thing, you'd think it would save money because they're not paying a cashier, right? But no, same price. Also, why is there an option to tip? Who am I tipping? Exactly. Anyway, even if you can't save money and time with some things, you could with a Progressive home and auto bundle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Spring cleaning isn't just for your house, it's for your life. If your job is getting old, it's time to clear the clutter and spring into IT. Go to My Computer Career.
My Computer Career helped me get the skills and certifications I needed to start a new life as an IT professional in months, not years.
Earn the certifications the top employers are looking for right now. Visit mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation to see if it's time to spring into IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
The first round of the NFL draft is 6 days away. The Bears have the 25th overall selection. Another loss for the White Sox, 5-3 at home against Tampa. Chicago led it 3-2 going into the ninth, but Tampa rallied for 3 runs and got lucky. Junior Caminero tied it with a solo shot, and then the White Sox bullpen fell apart. Tampa's 4th and 5th runs came on bases-loaded walks. 2 homers in the loss for the White Sox. Third baseman Miguel Vargas went deep. That was his 2nd of the season. Everson Pereira hit his 3rd of the season in the 8th. The White Sox travel to Sacramento today to face the A's. Davis Martin scheduled to start. The Cubs had the day off Thursday. They host the Mets today. 1-0 Edwin Cabrera starts for Chicago, which is 9-9 heading in. Kodai Senga starts for the Mets. He's 0-2. 8 straight losses for New York. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
I'm Chuck Sanders on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
Every 34 seconds, someone in America dies from heart disease. In that same time, you could be managing your heart health at home with Cardia Mobile, the #1 doctor-recommended personal EKG device that detects atrial fibrillation and other arrhythmias in just 30 seconds. Unlimited readings from anywhere at a surprisingly affordable price. Order now at Cardia, KARDIA.com or Amazon. Because when it comes to your heart, seconds count.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast, brought to you by KFC. Starting tonight, a flood warning is in effect for the listening area. This afternoon, mostly cloudy with a high near 49. Tonight, widespread frost and mostly clear with a low around 33. Looking ahead to Sunday, widespread frost, then a chance of rain showers, mostly sunny with a high near 50. Currently, it's 42 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
Do you ever crave a delicious treat, but that pesky guilt lingers over you? Well, you can have your dessert and eat it too. Desserts that's gluten-free, keto, vegan, and actually delicious. Yes, we're serious. At Desserts Without Regrets, located in Gilbert's, we bake for people who read labels. Custom cookies, celebration cakes, and treats made with clean ingredients and zero guilt. No walk-ins, because great dessert takes planning. Pre-order only at dessertswithoutregrets.com or call Daria at 312-610-9033. That's Desserts Without Regrets, because dessert should never be a regret.
Before the weather gets too cold, it's time to finish up those outdoor jobs. That's why ComEd wants you to know that electricity can jump from a power line to you and to the tools you're using. So maintain a safe distance from any power lines. You can also call ComEd at 1-800-EDISON-1 to have those power lines de-energized the next time you do any work around them. Stay smart, stay safe, stay back. ComEd, powering lives.
It's time to wake up.
Yes!
And lock in to On the Rise.
Yes!
With host Mike Napolitano.
Cub fans have every right to be disappointed if this Cubs team continues on the trajectory that they're on and they miss the playoffs or, at best, get a wild card spot. You are cooked at that point.
Mamma mia!
Dalton Cooper.
Like, I would look out for my friends and be like, hey, you know, if you're ranking a little bit, I'm gonna let you know. I feel like that's a good friend. I'd be like, hey, did you smell yourself, or did you maybe did you fart, but something doesn't smell right.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And Nick Johnston.
For the most part, to be fair, I don't want to completely, justify a sweep, but the Royals are red hot right now. Vinny Pasquantino might be Ted Williams reincarnated. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
On WRMN 1410 AM, the voice of the Valley.
Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of On the Rise here on the River Media Network Sports Saturday editions here at Studio 14 out in Elgin. I'm Mike Napolitano. Getting a little bit of a late start today, but that doesn't mean that we're not coming at you with a jam-packed slew of content here for your sports pleasure. First and foremost, we got to talk a little baseball because we have a very special guest joining us today. He was down in Mexico to cover the Baseball Champions League. We heard a little bit about that from the commissioner, Josh Shaw, but if you were keeping up right after the World Baseball Classic ended, it was the Baseball Champions League in which our very own Kane County Cougars were representing. So a man that I know very well, working with him, but also getting to see him all the time at Cougars, always on the broadcast, one of the best voices of the game. Please welcome to On the Rise, Colin Rudisil. I'm not here. I don't have your audio going.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. How's it going, my man?
Yeah, it's going great. Good to be back from Mexico. We had a great time down there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Was this your first year getting a chance to go down? Because I know this past season you took a bigger step with the Cougars, a lot more time in the booth, especially Joe Brand leaving. We got a chance to talk to him on the show previously, and also your partner in crime, Connor Kling. So was this your first experience out of country for baseball, and how did everything go?
Yeah, first experience out of country for baseball. It was supposed to be me and Connor Kling going. Unfortunately, he had some other obligations that he had to go to. So luckily for me, the voice of the Winnipeg Gold Eyes stepped up, Trevor Curl. So it was the two of us going down there. And it was amazing, to say the least. The stadium that they played at, Estadio Harpaloo, world class. I mean, that is their professional stadium in Mexico City. It is where Los Diablos Rojos play their baseball, and it would match any baseball stadium here in the United States. But it was jam-packed. I mean, it was morning to night, all-day baseball, 11 games in 6 days, doubleheaders every single day between these 5 teams that were all represented in the Baseball Champions League. Of course, you mentioned the Kane County Cougars. Los Diablos Rojos played representing Mexico, Los Santos with Nicaragua, the Crocodiles in Cuba, and then all the way from Chinese Taipei, the CTBL brothers came out as well. So you really had a big melting pot of teams, and it made for a very fun tournament.
Yeah, when we had Josh Schaub on, he was talking a lot about the excitement of adding more teams to this. And for those that didn't get a chance to catch that interview, this is a little bit different from the World Baseball Classic, because even though these teams are kind of the representative of these countries, it's not like they're wearing their country's uniforms. So the Cougars are in Cougars uniforms rather than this would be a mix of USA and Canada, as Mr. Schaub reminded us, because, of course, the American Association has Winnipeg. But, this is a little bit different of a Cougars team because not every single Cougar can make it for this tournament. They're either, maybe they were playing in the World Baseball Classic and this is a little too much for them, or they're just, maybe they're elsewhere. So talk to me a little bit about the makeup of this team. We got to see some Cougars, I guess you'd say rivals, guys that they went up against in the championship last year in like Jabari Henry play for this Cougars team. So how fun was that to see a little bit of a mishmash of a lineup?
I think that's one of the coolest parts, and we talked to George Samus, the manager, a lot about that as well, and how he kind of felt going down last year with the team he had versus this year. And he was really, really excited with what he was able to put together. It's never easy, right? When you have to talk about, obviously you want to bring a lot of guys from your team, but then you have to expand into the league. But I think they brought down a lot of guys like Dylan Thomas, for example, who's been there, every single year, Max Murphy as well, both, in Winnipeg and Fargo. And a lot of the pitching guys, and you mentioned Jabari Henry bringing that power bat as well. And you would think maybe there's kind of that friendly rivalry that they all have when they all get together and have to play under the same uniform. They really meshed really well. And I think everybody was really excited to be there. Everybody had the same mission to want to win this thing, especially not being able to win it last year. And it's a really big step for a lot of guys like Josh Allen and Claudio Final, these guys that are just coming off the heels of an American Association Miles Wolf Cup championship, to go down and represent not only the Cougars, but the American Association and the United States and Canada in a tournament like this, the Baseball Champions League, and also get the win there. But as far as the team forming together, I think right away, I mean, just after a few practices, it seemed like everybody kind of had their role. They knew what they needed to do. And from top to bottom on the lineup, I mean, they were producing on the offensive side. And then I think seeing on the defensive side, too, some of the plays that were being made, you would have thought these guys were playing together for years. And that's just kind of speaks to the talent that they have in the American Association.
It's incredible to see that synergy and that chemistry kind of come together in such a short time. You mentioned a little bit about how they didn't get a chance to win this tournament last year, but this is because the Cougars are back-to-back champions in the American Association, so they were the representative heading down to this tournament 2 years in a row. So talk to me a little bit about, do you think that there was maybe a chip on their shoulder from not winning the previous year? But also, I mean, this is a lot of baseball for at least the core of this Cougars team. And even, some of those players like Jabari Henry, who made it to the finals this past year with the Sioux Falls Canaries and played against the Cougars. It's a lot of baseball going into this 2026 American Association season. Of course, it's nice to have now the 3 championships under your belt, the 2 Miles Wolf Cups and a BCL title. But what have you seen from this team? Does that kind of get them a little bit more ready for the season, or do you think that this is a lot for these players?
Yeah, I think a lot of not just the Cougars, a lot of the teams were almost using this BCL as a bit of a preseason. I can tell you for sure, guys were coming off the couch or had done very minimal baseball training since the end of the American Association season, pretty much jumping right into BCL. So it's a big deal, right, to go down there and represent, but then you're also still trying to get yourself back into baseball form. But they really did a good job getting into baseball form quickly. And I think what you're saying here, Mike, it's a big jump to get them ready to go for something that's never been done before at the American Association, and that's win 3 straight Miles Wolf Cup finals. And that was definitely a part of the story that we were seeing from at least the Cougars players, and just kind of getting reconnected, seeing some of those guys get back in, because, you have repeat champ. I mean, Claudio Final was there, Josh Allen was there, Todd Lott, Armand Upshaw. So you had a lot of that core on the offensive side, as well as the pitching. Connor Ash pitched amazing in the BCL. He pitched amazing last year in the American Association. He picked up right where he left off. The back end with Jake Gozo and Logan Nissen, they were getting themselves into form and getting ready to go. So I think not only getting the training early, where a lot of these American Association guys are just getting started this month and then seeing their first competitive action next month, the Cougars have already kind of done that, right? Being able to play in the BCL and against talent that they haven't seen before, talent that they're not going to see, and then using that as kind of the platform to jump to having a successful season this year in the American Association.
And that's exactly what the people are hoping for around here, is another successful season from the Cougars. Looking ahead to this season, now getting a chance to see some of these players take that tournament, win the championship. Also, might I add, go undefeated to win that championship. I mean, that was just incredible to see, not only for USA, especially on the heels of that World Baseball Classic where the USA didn't quite get the job done against Venezuela, but going into this Cougars season, what are you kind of looking out for most from maybe some of these players that are, I don't know, mid-season form, can you say, already after having this tournament underneath their belts? Now, it's a little bit removed from the actual start of the season, but Josh Schaub was even talking about how it's a perfect it's snugged right in between the end of World Baseball Championship and the start of the actual MLB season. So you have this little pocket tournament, and then, I don't know, maybe a couple spring training games, and then season is here. So what are you excited for most from some of these guys going into 2026?
Yeah, and to kind of touch on that first part that Schaub mentioned, he's exactly right. He harped on that a lot, where this was purposeful, having this tournament right in between the World Baseball Classic and literally flowing right into the BCL, so everybody's on that baseball high, and you can continue that with basically the biggest minor league world championship that's out there, and they're continuing to expand. We talked to the BCL commissioner as well, and he mentioned that, they're going to have Baseball Champions League in Asia and in Europe, and the plan is to get into Australia and Africa and eventually turn this into a global tournament where you have all these pockets of kind of pool play and you get a champion that then move on to a more worldwide championship, I think is their goal within the next 5 to 10 years. So that's pretty awesome to see already. But then, as you mentioned, getting into the season as well, I mean, having just getting the wheels underneath you, kind of working out some kinks early on, like you mentioned, where a lot of the American Association is just getting started with kind of their spring training, if you will, and getting themselves set up. There's only a couple of exhibition games before the actual season even starts in the American Association. So to get, 4 or 5 games for these Cougar players under their belts and the other guys as well. We mentioned Jabari Henry, Dylan Thomas, Elvis Peralta, and they get to bring that back to their team as well. And, maybe there's a little bit of scouting going on there. You see Josh Allen, who was supposed to retire at the end of last season, gets the call from George Samus to come back and say, listen, nobody's ever won 3 in a row. You have an opportunity to do something special. And of course he's in. That's just the kind of player he is. And he has an amazing BCL. So, these guys might come back to their teams and say, look, Josh is on a different level right now. He's on a mission. And that's something that they're going to continue on into their regular season in the American Association. I think already getting that gel that they got for the BCL and getting that camaraderie and that chemistry to then kind of bring that back to the guys that didn't get a go and just start the season off hot. That's something we didn't see for the Cougars last year. It was a lot of that 500 baseball, and it really took them to the Miles Wolf Cup playoffs to really find their footing. Maybe this year they get a little bit of a better start because of what happened in the BCL.
I did joke with Josh Allen when we interviewed him last postseason, because he opened up off camera with us and was telling us about how he's had to cancel 2 hunting trips now because they've gone in such deep playoff runs, of course, winning the championship both times. But as you mentioned there, I had forgotten that, it was a little bit more of a slow start for the Cougars last year. They thought maybe there was a little bit of that championship hangover, even though they had gone to the BCL last year and competed. So maybe a little bit of too much baseball too soon, but they still get the job done. They get hot at the right time. Hopefully that is the case again this year, because there's a huge season full of extracurriculars going on for this Cougars team. One, of course, on the field is the chase for the 3rd consecutive Miles Wolf Cup, which, as you mentioned, has never been done before. But also just all the theme nights, giveaway nights. I know there's I circled one on the calendar. It's a Bumble, the Abominable Snowman from Rudolph. My mom's a big fan of that, so maybe I'll snag one of those for her. But you've even got, we'll be covering the Snowballs here at WRMN. When the Cougars are away, the Snowballs will be coming to town a couple of different times over to Geneva, and then also at Northwestern Medicine Field is something called Boom Ball. So tell me what you're eyeing. Of course, you'll be with the Cougars mostly, rather than some of these other teams that are coming in and using the field when the Cougars are on the road. But what is kind of your expectations for? Of course, we got to have a replica ring giveaway day too. I'm sure is getting listed in there. It might actually already be in there. I didn't even notice. But what are you looking forward to being back at Northwestern Medicine?
Yeah, I mean, they lead the attendance every single year in the American Association. So people love to come out to Northwestern Medicine Field and catch a ball game, not only for obviously the talent that George Samus and the Cougars are producing, but as you're mentioning, these giveaways. And we saw that last year, certainly with, the Nightmare Before Christmas giveaway, with the Jack Skellington in the all green suit. But the biggest one, getting global attention, is that Pope Leo XIV bobblehead that had people literally wrapping all around Northwestern Medicine Field to get in line for. So they do a phenomenal job there with all their promotions and giveaways. That is a big reason why it builds that nice family atmosphere and a great ballpark for the players as well. So obviously at the top of my list, being just a baseball fanatic, is the play that's actually happening on the field. And I just think there's a ton, when you look at the veteran leadership that's coming back, guys that are continuing to want to come back and play for Kane County. And it's not something you see a ton of in this league necessarily, is just that loyalty year after year after year. So it's a rare thing for George Samus and the Cougars to continue to bring back these players. And I think that gives them a big edge, especially on the pitching side of things. When you have these guys that have been in the big moments, that, when there's 1 or 2 runs that are on the line and it's their turn to get into the game. And we saw that all last season with Jake Gozo and with Casey Crosby. So, these are guys that are certainly up to the challenge. And that's not to say there's not other players in this league that are. There certainly are. But I just think getting to do that year over year and with the same core is really something that's kind of rare in the American Association. And I think something the Cougars can crutch on their way to potentially a 3rd Miles Wolf Cup championship.
We are, of course, excited that the Pope bobblehead is coming back. It looks like on September 6th. So you'll have more lines wrapped around the stadium. And as you mentioned, it's a great atmosphere. Shout out to Rev Entertainment for coming in last year. They have a very, I don't know if this is the case for every team that they own now, because there's quite a few of them. The Boomers, they just purchased during the offseason. So both teams that we cover here at WRMN are going to be under that same hood. But they have a very hands-off approach. They're kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, I mean, they've kind of let the Cougars continue to do the successful things that they've done to bring in the fans, to bring in the attendance, to make games exciting. So if you're not getting out to Kane County, you're kind of missing out on some of the best baseball, or Schaumburg here too, different leagues too. So you could be rooting for both and not feel any kind of guilt. But it sounds like when we talk to Commissioner Schaub that there are some plans in the future to kind of have a lot more collaboration, I should say, at the forefront rather than just behind the scenes between the two leagues, whether that be maybe like an all-star game where it's Frontier League versus American Association. There's a little bit of a discrepancy in the talent levels between these two AA leagues or where they can pull from, but hopefully we get a chance to see that. But I wanted to go back before we jump too far into regular season and all-star talk, because if anybody's not watching the BCL, you're not a baseball fan. You're missing out because you're not getting, first of all, your fill of baseball in that little pocket that we mentioned. But, I mean, this is just such a unique tournament that, it's not like an Olympic style, USA versus Venezuela that we saw in the World Baseball Classic. This is these individual teams. We heard that, it could eventually be brought to the States. Like you mentioned, they want to expand and have more teams from other countries. But hopefully we get a chance to see this in person. Do you think that they'd have it somewhere local compared to what you saw in Mexico? Do you think that like a Northwestern Medicine Field could host a tournament like this? And what would it mean, even if it isn't the Cougars, what would it mean for the American Association to expand this tournament and have it on home soil?
Yeah, I'm sure if you talk to Josh Schaub, that's probably something he'd very much be interested in, is bringing at least some of these games into the United States, specifically to the American Association. And, there's a few fields in the league that I think definitely hold it. It's a completely different atmosphere if we touch on that for a minute. And I'd be remiss to not mention the World Baseball Softball Confederation, the WBSC.
Yeah.
That took care of us literally from when we landed all the way through the tournament, taking us up from the airport, giving us meals, taking us to and from the field, having these huge late nights when the games went into the wee hours, some into the morning, one game into the morning, and just sticking with us the entire way and being so accommodating. So WBSC was hands down fantastic, and they do these tournaments all over the country. Our representatives were going to Colombia literally just a couple of days later to do a softball tournament, so they do an amazing job. But it's completely different baseball too in Mexico, and that's something, if you're a baseball fan, I'd recommend getting out of the United States and going to other places to experience a baseball game. Japan, Korea, they do things completely different as well, but I can only speak for Mexico, where they are literally, doing conga lines in between innings, going up and down the stands. They have their, video board showing different filters and cameras between every single pitch. There's always music playing. There's different chants and shouts and claps and all sorts of things that build a completely different environment than what we see here in the United States. And it really made it exciting. Their seventh inning stretch is a spectacle. So it was just cool, like you said, to see different baseball, and specifically the baseball. When you look at the Diablos Rojos, having players like Jose Marmoleos, former big leaguer, Mike Alfranco, former big leaguer, obviously Robinson Cano, Trevor Bauer played on that team last year. So they're a professional organization where guys that maybe are, maybe not at the peak of their career, but trying to get back, that is a great landing spot for them and a desirable landing spot for them. You look at, we talk about the American Association, we know what that's about already, but specifically the Chinese Taipei team, they sent 18 to 20-year-olds for the most part, guys that were just getting started in their professional career. Some of them, this was their very first experience ever in a professional setting, and they played hard and kind of had the small ball. Obviously with the elevation in Mexico City, we were seeing a ton of home runs. I think the brothers hit 2, maybe 3 in the entire tournament, and they never won a game, but for never winning a game, they were excited and competed every single time. It was really fun to watch that team play. Obviously the pride in baseball that Nicaragua and Cuba has, and the Don Tosin Crocodiles, those two teams were playing incredibly hard the entire time as well. It just made for really different baseball with every team you watched and the way that these teams were built. But it made the tournament fun from the very beginning. And certainly an exciting finish, and especially one that, being represented for the Cougars, one that we like to see.
I'm glad you briefly mentioned Nicaragua because that's where my mind went, because that's another team that has yet to get a win in World Baseball Classic and has been super exciting to watch. Former Boomer Chase Dawson was playing for them, so it was kind of rooting for them as well, at least individually for his success. But for this BCL, I mean, it's something that if you're, like I mentioned before, if you're a baseball fan, you have to tune into this, because baseball is that odd sport where, yes, we're seeing the top talent at the World Baseball Classic, right? But as you mentioned, this is also WBSC that runs this tournament. So you're getting a similar level of professionalism and style when the tournament is put together. So you're still seeing a well-formed, quote-unquote, league or mini tournament going on, and then you have these players that, baseball, you can have talent at that level that just isn't playing at the World Baseball Classic. And like you mentioned, players that are either trying to get back there or coming up the ranks. So you're going to get a little bit of a mix and a mishmash. And it's even a mishmash because it's like, which leagues do you pick to represent the countries in this tournament? And so far it's been the American Association in all of them. You wonder with the collaboration that I was hinting at that we got a little bit of a taste of from the commissioner that, maybe the Frontier League represents one year. Maybe, you have the Prospects League or of course, trades can happen at all times. Maybe guys come over from there, but I'm super excited to see where this goes in the future. Of course, it's expanding. It can be, as the commissioner was saying, I'll take more words out of his mouth. He said it's going to be as big as World Baseball Classic one day. And I believe it because it's such a unique product of not, like we said before, USA versus Mexico. It's Cougars versus Diablos. So it's such a unique experience. And then being down in Mexico as an Italian, I got to ask, the food, what was the best you had down there? What was something that stuck out in your mind that you're like, man, I can't get this back home?
Yeah, it kind of stunk a little bit in the sense that we didn't really get to get out and do a ton of exploring just because it was pretty much baseball all day, all night, and then you wake up and do the same thing. However, huevos rancheros that they were serving up at the hotel was phenomenal with like salsa verde going on there. I got that every single morning. So breakfast was definitely the best part. Other than that, they kind of fed us more normal lunches, pretty similar dinners. But I think they tried to Americanize it a little bit too much for us, but it's probably better to be safe than sorry. But getting those huevos rancheros, definitely number one.
That is awesome. I'm so excited to get a chance to see this Cougar season as we move towards actual. I mean, we're already here for MLB, but when it comes to the minor leagues, whether that is the Frontier League or the American Association, we know we're going to have a fun time with the Cougars. You mentioned a couple of preseason games leading up to the actual festivities, but then the actual home opener for the Cougars is on Friday, May 15th, looks like. So, yeah, against Kansas City, 6:30. There'll be fireworks. So get on out to the ballpark, everyone, and go ahead and see Cougars baseball as they embark on their quest to three-peat here in the American Association and take home another Miles Wolf Cup championship. Colin, I want to thank you again for jumping on. It was such a pleasure to get to talk to you, and we will be seeing you during the season. If anybody wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, at Colin Rudisill pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Looking forward to a good season. Appreciate you, Mike, for being on here. Always a pleasure. Hopefully we get to do this again.
Absolutely. And also in the booth at Northwestern Medicine Field. Colin, we will talk to you soon, and go Cougars.
Go Cougars. Let's do it.
Go Cougars. Roll Cougars. We'll be right back here on AM 1410's On the Rise. Mike Napolitano here with River Media Network Sports. We'll have more baseball and some hockey coming right up.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
Another loss for the White Sox, 5-3 at home against Tampa. Chicago led it 3-2 going into the ninth, but Tampa rallied for 3 runs and got lucky. Junior Caminero tied it with a solo shot, and then the White Sox bullpen fell apart. Tampa's 4th and 5th runs came on bases-loaded walks. 2 homers in the loss for the White Sox. Third baseman Miguel Vargas went deep. That was his 2nd of the season. Everson Pereira hit his 3rd of the season in the 8th. The White Sox travel to Sacramento today to face the A's. Davis Martin scheduled to start. The Cubs had the day off Thursday. They host the Mets today. 1-0 Edwin Cabrera starts for Chicago, which is 9-9 heading in. Kodai Senga starts for the Mets. He's 0-2. 8 straight losses for New York. The first round of the NFL draft is 6 days away. The Bears have the 25th overall selection.
Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
It's deck days at Lowe's, and the savings are stacked. Right now, pros get 15% off all in-stock composite decking from top brands like Trex, TimberTech, and Decorators. Plus, get a free DeWalt 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery when you buy a select DeWalt tool. The deck's stacked in your favor with brands pros trust. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Progressive's accident response can detect and send help when you need it most, after a major car accident. But other accidents, you're on your own. Like when you accidentally call your wife Mom. When you accidentally say Happy Holidays on someone's birthday. When you accidentally wave at someone you thought was waving at you. We can't help with those accidents, but Progressive's accident response provides peace of mind after major car accidents. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Limited availability in California. Driver is responsible for emergency and towing charges not covered by the policy.
For nearly 50 years, the DuPage Senior Citizens Council and Kane Senior Council have been dedicated to serving seniors in DuPage and Kane counties. Established in 1975, the DuPage Senior Citizens Council is a volunteer-driven 501c3 non-for-profit organization committed to helping older adults live with dignity. From providing nutritious meals to offering support services, the Kane Senior Council is there every step of the way. With programs designed to enhance independence and quality of life, they're proud to make a difference in the lives of their senior neighbors. To learn more or to volunteer, visit them at 418B Airport Road in Elgin or head to their website at caneseniorcouncil.org. Give them a call at 630-338-0999. That's 630-338-0999. That's the Kane Senior Council, caring for seniors because they deserve to live with dignity and respect. Visit caneseniorcouncil.org or call 630-338-0999 today.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast, brought to you by KFC. Starting tonight, a flood warning is in effect for the listening area. This afternoon, mostly cloudy with a high near 49. Tonight, widespread frost and mostly clear with a low around 33. Looking ahead to Sunday, widespread frost, then a chance of rain showers, mostly sunny with a high near 50. Currently, it's 42 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
Welcome back to AM 1410 WRMN's On the Rise. Mike Napolitano in studio. We just got a chance to talk to Colin Rudisil of the Kane County Cougars and their quest for the third consecutive Miles Wolf Cup championship on the heels of their stellar, undefeated run in the Baseball Champions League, which took place right after the World Baseball Classic over in Mexico as the Kane County Cougars knocked off the Mexico City Diablos in stunning fashion after not getting the job done the previous season at the BCL. Of course, the American Association representative goes and takes part in this tournament. And we hope that ends up being the Cougars one more time, because that would mean one more championship is still to go. But as far as championships, it doesn't look like it for most Chicago teams right now when you look on the baseball landscape, other than maybe the Boomers and the Cougars. The White Sox, a rough week as they were home. They were on the road to start the weekend. They were out in Kansas City, and they did split with the Royals. We left off, I believe it was on that Saturday, with the White Sox had taken a game apiece. No, actually, they were embarking on the third game as we were on the broadcast against Kansas City, and unfortunately, they fell short in that one as well. So 4-game stretch with the Royals. You win the first one 2-0. You lose the next two 2-0. You got to win what is the rubber match, basically, in the 4-game set. Otherwise, you've lost 3 out of 4 to a red-hot KC team that is in your same division. And by red-hot, I mean at the very bottom of the standings, right where we all predicted Kansas City to be, especially with Vinny Pasquantino and Bobby Witt Jr. having great WBCs. They're 7-13. They've lost 5 straight games, those Royals. So the White Sox really did a number on them at the end of that weekend. They're 4 games back, but so are the White Sox, sitting at 7-13. It's not a great division. Minnesota leading the AL Central 11-9. So it's still very much so up for grabs. It's still very early in the season, but you're not going to get there if you get swept at home by the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the Rays, an above 500 team, but the White Sox, they had a busy week as far as debuts go. They just didn't have a busy week as far as the bats go. The offense was not really there. And you look at these score sheets and you said, well, the White Sox put up 5 runs on Tuesday. They put up 3 runs on Wednesday. They put up another 3 runs on Thursday. And it just wasn't enough. Well, those runs came late in practically each one of those games. Or in that Thursday game, they came early or at the right time to give the White Sox the lead. It's just bullpen, pitching, defense gave up the lead later on in deep innings. Let's start with that Thursday game and actually work back a little bit. The White Sox take a 1-0 lead in the third. They give that up in the fourth. Then they take a 2-1 lead in the sixth. They give that up in the seventh. They take a 3-2 lead in the eighth, and all you got to do is shut down the Rays for 3 more outs. Instead, you gave them 3 more runs, and in terrible fashion, because in the ninth, Junior Caminero homers to left center. All right, that ties the game. You look like you're going into extra innings. Next thing you know, Yandy Diaz is scoring after a walk. The White Sox literally walked in the winning run. Taylor Walls then walked, and Aranda scored. So a 5-3 final, the 4th and 5th runs for the Rays coming by means of walks in the 9th inning. Now, it's not a walk-in, walk-off, because White Sox are playing at home. They did get last wraps, but they put up a big goose egg, and they lose 5-3, which goes on to give the Rays the sweep on the road. Not what you want to see from the White Sox, but scaling back. Tuesday, it was announced by Noah Phelan on Twitter. For a friend of mine, used to go to high school. I played baseball with his brother Sam. Great White Sox insiders, great White Sox reporting. It was announced that Sam Antonacci, the WBC legend for Team Italy and phenom, basically, for the White Sox in the spring training down in Arizona, and people were awaiting his return or his debut in the big leagues, I should say. They thought it would be opening day roster, but there were still some kinks to get worked out, I guess, with the White Sox. They wanted to see a little bit more development from him. But also, Noah Schultz, the number 2 prospect in the White Sox farm system. Number 1, of course, Braden Montgomery, not related to Colson, but another Montgomery on the way for this White Sox team. Noah Schultz, though, the number 2 out of Oswego East High School, grew up mostly in Aurora. He's listed as being born in Naperville, but we'll let Aurora claim this one. Oswego East was in attendance Tuesday night because that was Noah Schultz's debut. Now, the The tweet from Noah Phelan said that it would be Sam Antonacci and Noah Schultz making their debuts. Tuesday, we only got Noah Schultz. And the questions were asked. I was in the dugout ahead of the game to talk to Will Venable and Chris Getz, manager for the White Sox and GM, respectively. There was no mention of Sam Antonacci. The question was asked. They said, no, not right now. We're going to see, yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, Wednesday, it's announced halfway through the day that Sam Antonacci would be coming up for the White Sox. So they just delayed it by a day. Not sure if that was just so the family could get there. Not sure if that was so that Antonacci himself could get up to Chicago. He was playing in the game prior on that Tuesday afternoon with the Charlotte Knights in the outfield. So he came in, started second base for the White Sox, and had a decent outing. He was 1 for 3, a ground out to the second baseman and a hard ground out to the pitcher. But he started his MLB career off batting 1,000 with a bloop to right field. He was caught stealing, though, and then a walk in the 9th inning. He came around to score the White Sox first run, but it wasn't enough. The White Sox put up 5 in that game. They got 3 in that game. 5 was the game prior. They put up 3 in that game, but all 3 came in the 9th inning when it was already 8-0 Tampa Bay, so it wasn't enough for this White Sox team to get the victory in that one. But Antonacci can kind of hang his head high that the Italian boy coming in for Chicago and starting off fairly confident, fairly strong for this White Sox team. I want to thank my cousin Rick for getting me the opportunity to be at this game because I only had press for Tuesday. I had not put in for Wednesday, so I wasn't going to be there for the Paisans to make their appearance at the ballpark. But earlier on in the week, or that Tuesday, the day before, as I mentioned, Noah Schultz, I was there in attendance. Schultz goes 4 1/3, 4 strikeouts. He does give up, I believe it was 3 earned runs, and those were, 3 earned, but 4 runs in total. Those 3 runs ended up being the difference in the game as the White Sox got a late push, an 8-5 loss to the Rays. But you did have a home run in the 9th inning from Munetaka Murakami as he gets on the score sheet once again. That was a 2-run shot that made it 8-5, but not enough for the White Sox to stay alive. But another big blast from the Southside Samurai, as they're calling him. The White Sox go on the road against the Athletics last night. A 9-2 victory, and Munetaka Murakami with his first career grand slam. A 9-2 victory. I don't know if they needed the extra 4 runs, but hey, we will take the Southside Samurai going deep to center field. I believe StatCast had that at 438 feet. Exit velocity at 33 degrees, or angle at 33 degrees, and then it was a 114.1 exit velocity. So a huge smack for Munetaka Murakami, and the White Sox get back in the win column finally. They're 4-7 on the road, which means that they are 3-6 at home. So definitely got to bring that home record up. 2 sweeps against them at home, 1 sweep for them, and that was that opening series against the Toronto Blue Jays. So getting swept by Baltimore and Tampa Bay, it's tough sledding in the East, but you did get the AL defending champs, who are also in the East, the Blue Jays, and you're just going to have to look to try to get some more wins within the division coming up. Let's talk about that upcoming schedule. The White Sox are still out in Sacramento playing the Athletics, a 3:05 start time today, and tomorrow it'll be Eric Fetty on the mound today, Noah Schultz making his second start tomorrow. Then the White Sox continue out west with a 3-game set in Arizona. 8:40 starts on Tuesday and Wednesday, a 2:40 start on Thursday. It'll be Burke, Kay, and Martin all due up for this White Sox team before they come home next weekend to take on the Washington Nationals. So another East team, but this time in the NL East. Washington at 6:40 Friday night, Washington at 3:10 Saturday, and a 1:10 start time on Sunday. Fetty, Schultz, and Burke are listed as of right now. That'll do it for the South Side, but be sure to catch all of the White Sox games right here on AM 1410 WRMN. We are the home of your 2026 Chicago White Sox as you tune in throughout the season. Speaking of season ending for the Chicago Blackhawks. Unfortunately, they fall short of the playoffs. The exit interviews, though, for this Blackhawks team, Alex Vlasic said word for word, next year playoffs are the expectation. And I think Frank Nazar and Connor Bedard reiterated that same sentiment. Now, Connor Bedard also spoke to the media because he is due for a contract extension. Kyle Davidson, GM, who did get a contract extension from Rocky Wirtz, from Danny Wirtz. He did speak about how that is number one priority, is to get Connor Bedard signed. And there is no doubt in my mind that that extension will be signed. Connor Bedard is the face of the franchise right now. It would be absolutely asinine for somebody to think that that deal does not get done. So it's just a matter of when, not if. I think because that is such a given, who knows what the dollar signs are yet, the amount is, but I think what is more so priority number one for Kyle Davidson, attract a big free agent. You have to go out and get somebody big this year. People are kind of back and forth on how this free agency class in the NHL is going into the offseason. Some people are saying it's not one of the better ones that they've seen. I would beg to differ. I think with all the Canadian media going after Austin Matthews for caring too much about the Olympics and playing for Team USA. First of all, he's American. Of course he's going to care about representing his country. Second of all, what I will say is the Canadian media, a lot of times for their teams, we hear it all the time, are way too harsh. It's not Austin Matthews' fault that Toronto Maple Leafs team fell apart. You traded away Marner. Your core is dwindling. Your championship window and even playoff window were closing going into this season. It's not all on one guy. It's an entire team thing. So, yes, Austin Matthews being the captain, a little bit can be put on his shoulders. Not enough of it on his shoulders. I'll tell you that much. So, I said that wrong. Not all of it should be on his shoulders. So to point the finger solely at Austin Matthews and say it's his fault just because he's wearing the C on his sweater, completely ridiculous. I think you've run him out of town. I think he leaves that market, whether that's this offseason or the next. Sounds like this one would be the good time for Matthews to make the decision because it is a contract year for him. Another man who is part of that quote-unquote core in Toronto, Matthew Nyes, who I think would be a perfect addition to this Blackhawks team. You're talking about a team that, how do I put this, could really use a prime young up-and-coming player. And it sounds like we have a lot of them, but like somebody that has already been in the league for some time and isn't having to learn the ropes right now, like a Frank Nazar, like a Connor Bedard. Like those guys got to get bigger and stronger and faster, right? Connor Bedard did add a step this past offseason. You saw it this season. Despite injuries for both of those guys, it's been crucial for them to make that next step, and I think they have, and that'll progress going into next season, thus the expectation to make the playoffs. But I think you need to finally attract, I know you finally need to attract that big free agent. You've pulled in the Pat Maroons, the Alec Martinez's, the Nick Folignos, even you could throw Andrew Mangiapane into that. But those guys are either on the back nine of their career or looking to retire, and they're that veteran presence in the locker room and maybe not necessarily the speed on the ice, but or they're bottom six players just in general. That's how that works. You need somebody that can be in your top six. This is equivalent, and I know people are making the comparisons, and I struggle to make comparisons here because this is a completely new franchise, new ownership, new GM, new team itself, new era of hockey. The league is always expanding and evolving. Everybody's comparing this move to the Marian Hossa move. That was your big free agent get that was going to take the Blackhawks over the hump and get them into Stanley Cup discussion. And that's exactly what happened. And Marian Hossa goes on from losing 2 cups back-to-back to former teams within 2 years to winning 3 with Chicago and becoming a dynasty. If you can land that free agent, that would be huge. There's a couple other names. We can get to a deeper evaluation of that when we have Dalton back here and we're talking a little bit. But first and foremost, I want to recap the end of the Blackhawks season. They lose 5-3 to the Blues on Saturday. That was the Hall of Fame game. The Blackhawks were honoring Duncan Keith and Steve Larmer, who had gotten voted in by the fans, but also the late, great Troy Murray, who got added, and there was no argument or discussion from the fans on whether that was the move. That was 100% the move. So all three men recognized for their accomplishments, whether it was on the ice, in the booth, or just being a Blackhawks alumni, they will go down in Blackhawks history. It's kind of their own ring of honor, as you kind of saw happen with the Bulls now that they've started that. But then you also have the now Blackhawks Ring of Honor starting. I was a little disappointed because the ceremonies happened at the new Blackhawks Ice Center, formerly Fifth Third Ice Arena. I know name changes are going to make things a little confusing, but that's where the Chicago Steel will be playing next year on that fourth brand new ice sheet that they built. It used to just be the 2 ice sheets. Now there's 4 at that facility. It is at the USG Arena. I was a little disappointed in the Blackhawks organization that they had all the ceremonies privately the night before, and then you hype up the game that it's this big Hall of Fame game, and there weren't really any ceremonies. There was nothing on the ice before the game. There was a panel in the atrium with Duncan Keith and Steve Larmer and Troy Murray's son talking to Darren Pang, but that was about it. Other than that, there was nothing else special about the game, and boy, oh boy, was there nothing special about the game because it got off the rails very quickly for the Blackhawks, who fell 5-3 to a struggling Blues team who also missed the playoffs. And then the Blackhawks stay at home for the final 2 matches of the season. Monday night against the Sabres, this red-hot Sabres team that has finally broken their playoff drought. A 5-1 loss to Tage Thompson and the Sabres, and the Blackhawks finished the season Wednesday night with a win against the San Jose Sharks and Macklin Celebrini. So at least you take it to a team that has been thrown in the same boat. Sharks boat, no pun intended. They were going to need a bigger boat on Wednesday night, those Sharks, because they lost 5-2 to the Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks close out their season at home in front of the fans and give them something to cheer for. Now, if you haven't made your playoff bracket yet, do so quickly because you only have a couple more hours. The NHL playoffs start today. If we had a little bit longer of a show and we had our co-hosts here, Dalton Cooper and Nick Johnson, I'd give you a little bit of a rundown of what I think is going to go on here in these playoffs. Some predictions. Maybe we'll come to you with that next week when we have a little bit more time, as we're running out of time here. But definitely going to be an interesting playoffs. I mentioned the Sabres getting in for the first time in 15 seasons. They broke their playoff drought. Now the longest drought in playoff history is the New York Jets. They now hold that record. So that's a little tough for the New York side of things, as you know, you're super happy for the Sabres on one hand, but you would like for your Jets to finally get back to the playoffs on the other hand. As for the other teams, can the Minnesota Wild get out of the first round finally? They're going to have to go up against one of the toughest teams in the Dallas Stars, and I hate the way that the playoffs are set up right now because rather than a 1-8 matchup, you have 2 of the best teams squaring off in round 1. And it's a shame that we're not going to get treated to one of those teams at least moving on, or both of those teams, I should say, at least moving on to round 2. So we shall see about that. Vegas is in it as always. Tampa Bay in it as always. They're going up against a Montreal team that is on the rise. See what I did there? That Martin St. Louis-led Montreal Canadiens team is going to be absolutely dangerous and deadly for the years to come. And let's see if they start out in the playoffs this year against a team that's been there and done it before in Tampa Bay. The President's Trophy winners, though, the Colorado Avalanche, going back to the West. So everybody's saying that the East is so stacked and so difficult. That is true. But don't underestimate the absolute top dogs in the West. And that would be, like I mentioned, Dallas, Minnesota, and the President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche. Don't count out Nathan McKinnon just yet, but also don't count out another man with the M last name, Connor McDavid. There's a lot of hockey being played by the Oilers. They still don't necessarily have a goaltender, but can they get out of this first round and move themselves into a position where they can get back to the Stanley Cup final? Will Leon Draisaitl be healthy? Will Connor McDavid turn it back on for playoffs? You can't ever bet against this Oilers team. And honestly, this may be one of their easiest roads to the Cup in recent years, other than maybe having to play eventually a Minnesota, Dallas, or Colorado. So they'll start off against the Ducks, who also broke their playoff drought. Last time they were in was 2017, 2018. So a lot of newcomers to the dance this year on the NHL side of things, and that will be exciting. Now, we will have some playoffs here in the Chicagoland area. I mentioned it last week when we had Dominic Fensori on the show, Wolves defenseman and all-star. The Chicago Wolves will wrap up their season today and tomorrow against the Milwaukee Admirals. Seeding is already set. The Wolves lock in that second place spot, so they do have home ice advantage against the Texas Stars, the Dallas Stars affiliate from the AHL. So we'll see when those schedules are released. There has to be a play-in round that happens between the 4th and 5th seeded teams as well. The Rockford Ice Hogs are eliminated officially out of the playoffs, but we did get a chance to see Adam Guyon make his debut in the AHL, looking for Blackhawks goaltending to take a next step forward next year. So we'll see how the Wolves fare once we get to playoffs. Hopefully by next week we will know the dates and have that schedule ready for you after that play-in round is done. But we expect the Wolves to really lean into that home ice advantage to try to make a little bit deeper of a run. Dominic Fensori did get hurt in that one of those games last weekend. It was on Sunday. Dalton Cooper and I were in attendance there to cover Wolves and Ice Hogs for the final time this season before Dalton and I went over to cover the Chicago Hounds rugby team over at SeatGeek Stadium. So we'll be bringing you maybe some rugby news sometime within the week here as well, and throughout the rest of the Hounds season. But plenty to cover here at AM 1410 WRMN. We're not going to get to all of it today. I didn't even talk about the Northsiders. The Cubs had a great Friday afternoon, a 14-2 victory over the Mets. They get back in the win column. The Mets, man, stay in the losing column. Yikes. If you're the New York Mets, you're pulling your hair out like Frank the Tank at this point, because boy, oh boy, it has been a landslide for this Mets team right now. The Cubs, like I mentioned, beat them 14-2 yesterday. Cubs were also coming off of wins in Philadelphia, 10-4 and 11-2 against a tough Phillies team. But boy, oh boy, this Cubs team now 10-9. 10-9. So they're getting back above 500. The bats are starting to wake up. We'll get to see them in action again today at 1:20, tomorrow at 1:20, before they then welcome those same Philadelphia Phillies after wrapping up with the New York Mets all during the week. So it's Jameson Taillon and Javier Assad on the bump today and tomorrow, respectively. Colin Ray, Shota Imanaga, Cabrera, and then Taillon again in that Philadelphia series. And the Cubs go on the road for the weekend against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Evil Empire, 9:10 on Friday, 6:15 Saturday, and 3:10 next Sunday. So stick around for Cubs baseball. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get some information from Blake Cowell throughout the week and see some more Cubs wins on the north side as they push to give us some kind of professional playoff baseball other than what we'll get from the Boomers and Cougars. We'll be back next week with more AM 1410 on the Rise. I'm Mike Napolitano.
Do you ever crave a delicious treat, but that pesky guilt lingers over you? Well, you can have your dessert and eat it too. Desserts that's gluten-free, keto, vegan, and actually delicious. Yes, we're serious. At Desserts Without Regrets, located in Gilbert's, we bake for people who read labels. Custom cookies, celebration cakes, and treats made with clean ingredients and zero guilt. No walk-ins, because great dessert takes planning. Pre-order only at dessertswithoutregrets.com or call Daria at 312-610-9033. That's Desserts Without Regrets, because dessert should never be a regret.
Hi, this is Sue with Newman's Corner Pub in Hampshire, Illinois. Are you looking for the perfect hangout